You may have seen in the recent video from Sandy Munro from Munro Live, fantastic YouTube channel, that they bought a brand new Cybertruck and then they dismantled it completely. And they've just today actually released a video from the battery where they took the battery out and they dismantled it and they go around it for half an hour talking about what's going on with the plumbing and the connections and the battery pack and all these interesting things about it. So that's what this video is about, really. There's a couple of things in it that are really incredible. So to start with, the battery, when they've got it out of the car, they load it down and they, for some reason, turn it upside down. I don't know why. If you know why, put it in the comments. I still haven't figured that out why, because it's extremely heavy and they've turned it upside down for some reason. So maybe it's just to get access to the bolts in a better way. I don't know. I'm not an expert. A few things to talk about that are fantastic. Really, really incredible. Particularly one of them, which I will get to. I've never seen this or heard of it, and I think it's kind of genius, honestly. So I still believe what I said in the video before this, which was earlier this morning, actually. I think that went live. I think it seems that Sandy Munro disagrees with what I thought about why there's so much space in the battery for the Cybertruck. He thinks the sole purpose of that space, which is about 32 millimeters, he thinks, roughly, maybe a little bit more than that, I think. Looks like more than 32 mil after the tops of the battery cells to the outer casing. So he thinks it's for battery crash, for crash protection, basically. I think that's part of it, but I also think, like I said yesterday, absolutely they are thinking to put LFP chemistry in the battery, in that they're using the Shen Sing batteries. So they're a specific type of battery, and they're making them from this new equipment that is currently coming from China by CATL to the US to make in Texas and Nevada. We believe it's those two places. Hey folks, thank you for tuning in. Great to see so many new subscribers on the channel every day. Loads more people. It's great, really. So if you're new here, I'm Ben Alexander, and this is The Charge Show. I make EV news videos every single day about all the latest stuff that's going on. And yeah, so thank you for watching. I've never seen this before. The battery casing has two what they call flood ports. A little plastic thing, looks like a plumbing part actually for for radiators and heating and things like that, but it's not. So inside the valve there are a series of these little tiny wafer discs, and then should they come into contact with too much moisture or actually just water, they expand enough and that opens a valve to release coolant if there's a coolant leak in the battery, for example. Pretty clever, quite a genius thing. Seems it's common sense engineering, isn't it? One of them goes on the part of the battery that they call the penthouse, where I think all the hoses and the connectors sort of plug into it, that sort of thing. So that's pretty clever, I think. The whole battery is sealed as normal with RTV sealant to make it completely watertight. I thought that they would seal it off so it's completely encapsulated in the metal and the sealant. And then should someone drive it through, like a normal Tesla Model Y or something like that, or the Cybertruck, it will just go in the water, get wet, come back out, dry off. Not the case. They actually do some clever stuff here. So so I will explain this in a second. So there's an air gap around literally the top and all the way around the edge of the battery in case it ever gets hit. On the sides, I think it looks about this much space in case that ever gets penetrated. On the Model Y, they actually fill that with foam, that gap. There is a gap. It's a smaller gap than that, but it's sort of like this. So if they're going off-roading, for example, you've got 30-something millimeters roughly before the dent would then start touching the top of the cell, for example. And it's really tough. They really emphasized, and they showed you the actual thing that they make the battery casing out of, really rock solid, super solid. And when it's all bolted in, it really does form part of the structure of the vehicle. So the air compressor that lowers and raises the car also connects directly into the battery pack with a pipe to pressurize the battery pack. So when it's on scuba mode and you go into water or you wade into water, literally the battery pack is pressurized so that if there are any little leaks or sealant leaks or anything like that, water doesn't get in and it will just push air out of the gap rather than water come in. It's common sense engineering. I'm tempted to say genius. As Sandy Munro says, it's clear that a lot of people did a lot of great things to make this whole package what it is. I think that's a really nice compliment. When you look at it, lots of small little details of meaningful, clever things put together to make this quite a nice thing. So secretly, you may have known this because I always talk about the BYD Seagull, for example. I love small cars. Was not always really a fan of the Cybertruck. I did hold off talking about it just because I don't find it. I'm just not overly into it, and I don't want the world to look like everyone's driving Cybertrucks in 10 years' time. I want them to be driving, more reasonable, affordable cars that are not crazy and ridiculous. But there is a place for the Cybertruck. I get that now. It is pretty awesome. And the more I see of it on the internet, the more fond I get. And I've seen the video where they talk about the thermal management system and how the plumbing is all into the batteries. Brilliant. And I'm more a fan of the Cybertruck now than I ever was. What do you all think of it? Do you think it's great? Is it just a distraction that maybe we should be focusing on something, should we be thinking about something more useful, a more practical, affordable, smaller car? Let me know in the comments. I suspect some of you will agree. For example, the next video that will be published is about why China gave $3.7 billion US to BYD to win the EV race, and it's fascinating, so don't miss that video.